As we wrap up different types of sentences, we're going to be moving into verbals for the second half of the year. And in order to make sure that you understand verbals and pick up on them quickly, I wanted to do a review of nouns and their jobs, which will help you when we get to gerunds and infinitives and how they function in a sentence. So you have a piece of paper that looks like this. You need to glue in the next blank page of your interactive notebook. I would suggest maybe doing your notes first and then gluing them after. Some of you like to get a little glue happy. So you're going to take your notes here. I would take as many notes as you can to help you understand them. If this seems like a lot of review, then maybe you don't need to take as many notes, but if it feels like it's new information or something that you've never heard of, you might need to add some notes. And if you need to add a piece of paper or Post-its or something to make sure that you know this, it is your responsibility to get your takeaway. Again, nouns were something that you learned many, many years ago. This is just going to really be a quick review. So as you take notes on that, I'm going to use this presentation. And with anything, I always like to start with a definition, making sure that we understand what a noun is. And a noun is a word that names a person, place, thing, or idea. And typically when we look in sentences, a sentence could have 4 or 5 different nouns, and each noun might be doing a different job. So that's why we need to make sure we know the differences between them. Now, when we talk about nouns, there are different types of nouns, and these are terms I'm sure you've heard before. A noun could be defined as common or proper. Common being a noun that names just any old regular person, place, or thing, whereas proper names a very specific one. So common could be Mrs. Teacher, whereas a proper noun could be Mrs. Culleton. Now, common nouns can also be classified as singular or plural. I could be talking about one teacher or more than one teacher, so it would be teachers. So these terms can overlap depending on how it's being used. Now this one gets a little tricky because when we talk about nouns in their possessive form, they're not really nouns anymore. They are formed from nouns, but they become adjectives. So we've talked about Mrs. Culleton becoming possessive. Mrs. Culleton's book, it's no longer a noun, it's now an adjective describing the noun book. We've done this when we look at our sentence analysis on the board. A noun could also be collective. Now, a collective noun is a very specific group of nouns that names, in its singular form, it actually names a group of something. So if I were talking about a team is a singular noun, one football team, but already I'm thinking of a group of people. There's not just one person on this one team. The team is made up of maybe 30 or 40 people. So it's a collective noun. A lot of our animal groupings, so we talk about a herd or a flock. When you think of a herd of cow, then you already know there's going to be more than one. So that's what a collective noun is. Then we could also classify nouns as concrete or abstract. Concrete is a noun you can see or touch, versus abstract is something that you really can't see. It's more of this idea. The idea of beauty or sadness or happiness might be different for everybody. I like to think of abstract art. When you look at it, the artist knows what he meant, but we just have an idea about it. Okay, and so those are the different types of nouns. Now we're going to move into the jobs that they do. As you take your notes, you'll see that there are a couple of different columns here. The first column, I want you to label the different jobs that they do. So you'll see that I have a mnemonic that we're going to use that's going to help us remember them, and that is iPods A, or you could say A iPods. And in your first column, you're going to list what does the I stand for. So a noun in a sentence could be an indirect object. It could be a predicate noun. It could be the object of a preposition. It could be a direct object. It could be a subject, or it could be doing the job of and a positive. So when we label in our sentence analysis, we always start by labeling them one of the 8 parts of speech. It's either a noun, verb, adjective, or whatever. Then we go to the next step and we really look at, well, what is it doing in the sentence? One noun is usually a subject, while another noun could be in the object of a preposition, and a different noun is doing a different job as direct object. Any sentence could maybe have all of these different jobs. So we really have to know what each job or what each noun looks like when it's doing that job. So in the last column, that's where you're going to be taking your notes. And again, if you feel like you need to write the examples down, then pause the screencast and write the examples down. But you need to make sure that you walk away today having a very decent understanding that any noun in a sentence could be doing one of these 6 jobs, and you should be able to, at this point, recognize or be able to figure out using your notes which job it's doing. So I'm going to do them out of order of your notes, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want you to think about if you were going to attack a sentence, this is the order that I would look for. So we've always done prepositional phrases first, so if I were looking at a noun and I wanted to figure out if it was the object of a preposition, this is what I would look for first. A noun that's in the object of a preposition job is the last word of a prepositional phrase. And we've talked about this formula. A prepositional phrase starts with a preposition, has a modifier or more, could have several in the middle, and ends with a noun. Now we also know that nouns and pronouns work interchangeably. They do the same job. So for our purposes this week, we're really going to only focus on nouns. So in this sentence, I gave my homework to my teacher. To my teacher is a prepositional phrase. Since there's a noun at the end of the phrase, that noun is doing the job of the object of the preposition. That's one of the 6 jobs that teacher could be doing. And again, these are the ones that I would look for first. Next, I'd look for the subject. A subject tells who or what the sentence is about. The teacher gave us homework. In this context, the teacher is the subject of the sentence. It tells who or what is giving the homework. This is what I would look for second. And this is, again, the same process we go through when we do our sentence analysis. Now, a direct object follows an action verb. So we usually look for our subject and then find our verb. And I always ask you, is it action or linking? If it's an action verb, then the noun that follows it would be a direct object. A direct object answers the question, whom or what? I handed the teacher my homework. I handed whom or what did I hand? I handed my homework. Now, it looks like you could say I handed my teacher, but you didn't pick up your teacher and hand your teacher over. So in this case, what did you hand? You handed homework. So homework is doing the job of the direct object here. So I would look for these. If you see an action verb, then the next thing you want to look for is to see, is there a noun that comes after it that answers the question, whom or what? And if you do, then it's a direct object. Now, if you're doing this and you see an action verb and you see a direct object and there's still some nouns left, then you might look for an indirect object. An indirect object also follows an action verb, but it precedes a direct object, means it comes before the the direct object. And it answers the question, for whom or what, or to whom or what. I handed the teacher my homework. Well, we had already decided that homework is the direct object. I handed what? I handed my homework. To whom did I hand my homework? To the teacher. So it comes between the verb and the direct object. That is an indirect object. So a noun can do the job of indirect object if it comes between the action verb and the direct object and answers this question, to whom or what, or for whom or for what something is done. We're almost done, but we've got predicate nouns still. Now, predicate nouns don't go with action verbs. They go with linking verbs. And if a noun is in a predicate noun and it follows a linking verb, it's going to go back and rename the subject, which I misspelled. My apologies. Mrs. Culleton is my English teacher. The subject is Mrs. Culleton. I see a linking verb, and I see a noun after that linking verb, teacher. Teacher goes back and renames Mrs. Culleton. I could switch that around and say my English teacher is Mrs. Culleton. Either way, the noun that comes after the linking verb is the predicate noun. So we would look for these if we see a linking verb. Now the last one is an appositive. An appositive follows a noun and a comma in a sentence. That noun is probably going to be the subject or the direct object in a sentence. We're going to see, is there an appositive after that comma? If it is, it's similar to a predicate noun in what it does. It's renaming the noun. It's usually giving a little bit more information, though, because it probably has some modifiers around it. Mrs. Culleton, comma, so if I saw this, I saw a noun with a comma right after it, then it should signal to me that there might be an appositive. Mrs. Culleton, comma, my English teacher who has arachnophobia, comma, freaks out if she sees a bug in our classroom. Teacher is a noun within this appositive phrase, and it goes back and renames Mrs. Culleton. It's not a predicate noun because if I was looking at the rest of the sentence, it says, Mrs. Culleton, where's my verb? My verb is freaks. That's the action. She freaks out. So it's not a linking verb, and it's not a noun that comes after that linking verb. It's separated by commas here. But it does the same thing in that it goes back and it renames another noun. So we would look for these if we saw a noun that had a comma right after it. So these are your notes. I will, tomorrow on Tuesday, you'll have some exercises where I'm going to ask you to look for the noun and try to figure out what each of those nouns' jobs are doing. And you can use your notes, you should use your notes to help you do that.